range of the B-29. An improved version of the B-29 is the B-50, designed to go higher and farther. The tall vertical tail surface on the B-50 and the large oil coolers beneath the 3,500 horsepower engines permit easy identification of this plane. Since all B-50s are equipped for in-flight refueling, they also are potential intercontinental bombers. In fact, the B-50 Lucky Lady flew around the world non-stop in 4 days by means of this technique. And as for atomic bomb delivery, the B-50 can carry a 60-inch atomic weapon approximately 4,000 nautical miles at 300 knots and bomb effectively from 35,000 feet. During World War II, when the possible loss of bombing bases close to Europe was considered, plans were prepared.
The Boeing B-50 Superfortress, the bomber that almost nobody remembers. When people talk about famous bombers, names like the B-17, B-29, and B-52 usually dominate the conversation. But hidden between the legendary B-29 and the iconic B-52 is an aircraft that helped bridge 2 eras of aviation. An aircraft that looked almost identical to the B-29 but was actually far more advanced. Meet the Boeing B-50 Superfortress. Despite its appearance, the B-50 was not simply a modified B-29. It was a significantly improved aircraft that introduced new technologies, set aviation records, and helped usher the United States Air Force into the early years of the Cold War. This is the story of the forgotten Superfortress. By the end of World War II, the B-29 had proven itself to be one of the most advanced aircraft ever built. It featured pressurized crew compartments, remote-controlled gun turrets, and impressive long-range performance. However, engineers knew it still had limitations. The aircraft's engines required constant attention. Maintenance was demanding. And aviation technology was advancing so quickly that improvements were already being planned before the war ended. Boeing engineers began developing a more powerful version. At first, the project was called the B-29D, but so many changes were made that the Air Force eventually gave it a new designation. At first glance, the B-50 looks almost identical to a B-29. Many people can't tell the difference, but underneath the skin, major upgrades transformed the aircraft. The fuselage was strengthened. The vertical tail was made taller. The structure was redesigned using stronger aluminum alloys. Most importantly, the aircraft received entirely new engines. These changes allowed the B-50 to carry heavier loads, fly farther, and operate more efficiently. Although it resembled its predecessor, it was essentially a new airplane. The biggest improvement came from the engines. The B-50 was powered by 4 massive Pratt & Whitney Aon 436 Zero-Wasp major radial engines. These were among the most powerful piston engines ever installed on an aircraft. Each engine produced around 3,500 horsepower. Combined, they generated enough power to significantly improve the aircraft's performance. Compared to the B-29, the B-50 could fly faster, climb higher, carry heavier payloads, operate more effectively on long-range missions. The engines also gave the aircraft a distinctive sound that aviation enthusiasts still recognize today. The B-50 remained a huge aircraft. Its wingspan measured over 43 meters. Its length exceeded 30 meters. The aircraft could reach speeds of approximately 630 kilometers per hour. For a large piston-engine bomber, this was impressive performance. Its operational range stretched thousands of kilometers, making it suitable for long-distance missions across vast regions. At a time when jet bombers were still being developed, the B-50 represented the peak of piston-engine bomber technology. The late 1940s marked a turning point in aviation history. Jet aircraft were becoming increasingly common. Many military planners believed piston-powered bombers would soon become obsolete. However, jet technology was still developing. Early jets often had limited range and reliability. As a result, the B-50 became an important transitional aircraft. It provided strategic capabilities, while newer jet-powered bombers were still under development. For several years, it served as one of the most capable, long-range aircraft available. One of the B-50's most famous achievements occurred in 1949. A specially modified B-50, named Lucky Lady, to accomplish something extraordinary. It became the first aircraft to fly around the world without landing for fuel. the aircraft completed the journey through a series of aerial refueling operations. This demonstrated a revolutionary concept. Instead of being limited by fuel capacity alone, aircraft could dramatically extend their range by refueling in the air. Today, aerial refueling is common among military aircraft, but at the time, it was a remarkable achievement. The flight captured international attention and showcased the growing capabilities of long-range aviation. In conclusion, the Boeing B-50 Superfortress may not be as famous as the B-29 or as iconic as the B-52, but its contribution to aviation history was significant. It pushed piston engine technology to its limits. It demonstrated the potential of aerial refueling. It helped connect two generations of military aviation, and it proved that innovation often happens in the space between legends. Despite its capabilities, the B-50 faced an unavoidable challenge. Jet bombers were improving rapidly. Aircraft like the Boeing B-47 Stratojet and later the Boeing B-52 Superfortress offered higher speeds and modern jet performance. As these aircraft entered service, the B-50's role gradually diminished. By the late 1950s, most B-50s had been retired from frontline duties. The age of piston-engine strategic bombers was coming to an end. The future belonged to jets. Why the B-50 is often forgotten. The B-50 had an unusual problem. It looked too much like the B-29. Many people assumed it was simply another version of the older aircraft. As a result, its achievements are often overlooked. Yet the B-50 introduced stronger structures, more powerful engines, improved performance, and groundbreaking aerial refueling milestones. It served as a bridge between the propeller-driven bombers of World War II and the jet-powered aircraft of the Cold War. Without aircraft like the B-50, the transition to modern strategic aviation would have been much more difficult.